Innovation is in our veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It's your boy, Josh.
Dalton.
And we're grateful to be back on with you yet again.
On a Monday night.
Seriously. I guess happy Thursday to all of you. Grateful to have you all tuning in. We're getting into the details today that people don't want us getting into.
Oh, is that the consensus? We're not supposed to talk about this.
Definitely. Our Prime Minister definitely doesn't want us to talk about this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
do you think he's watching?
Oh, yeah, he definitely does not care enough for us. 100%.
I like to think he does.
JT turns us on every Monday night.
We just make him rich.
Yeah. Those two white guys again.
Yeah. Which one? Well, he looks at his book of white guys podcast. So which one's this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Racists.
Yeah.
No, it's we're getting into it tonight. Election interference is happening abound in our country. The administration who's in power says it's not a big deal. Everybody else says, what the heck is going on? So we're going to dive into all the details of what's going on, what Trudeau and his homies seem to be covering up. And we will be we come across some interesting pieces of information on this one.
There's one document that I've looked at, and it's like, what's the word? I guess telling is the best word. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Wonder why that wasn't brought to light until right now. Yeah. Like that was hidden pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. So lots to get into today. But first, please like and subscribe. Help the homies out.
Yeah, we're begging.
Yeah.
Please.
Let us in. Let us in. No, without you, we don't have a show. So thank you guys for continuing listening. It's awesome.
I know sometimes we go on like, for example, we've given some attention to people who like give us negative comments and things like that. But the positive that we get is way outweighs it. And I never thought this also was a crazy statistic that it's been 3 years basically since COVID. So it's essentially we're going on 3 years of this, and it's crazy. You know, at times it's challenging, but it's still been fun.
Mm-hmm. And that's always been our key.
It has, I know.
The minute it stops being fun, I'm not doing it no more.
Yeah, so that's telling.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you to listeners, everyone that keeps tuning in every week. We see the numbers. They keep increasing. So thank you.
Yeah, we're just learning and growing, you know. This is our first time being the age we are. We're just doing the best we can, man.
Exactly.
Listening to the feedback. Growing.
Doing our best.
Trying
out here. Philip, we got Phil behind the buttons.
Hey, I finally have a camera.
On camera,
Yo!
dog. Whoa.
Hey, let's go.
Don't care.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Of course.
That was wrong button. There it is the button. Yeah, there it is.
Wrong button.
Yeah.
You programmed this board 3 years ago.
And haven't changed it once.
I can finally have a camera when I get fired again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be his third time.
This is actually for security footage.
Yeah.
This is for court purposes.
Yep.
I'm being framed.
Yeah. This is for litigation.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we have all the receipts when the time comes for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's jump into it. So anyone who knows the story who may not be following it, some things came to light recently where we talked about, a couple episodes ago at this point on the show. We talked about the overall theme of what's going on, of how Beijing, China, Chinese government has been having some influence in our Canadian elections to make sure that there's a specific party that remains in power, but doesn't have too much control, just has enough to kind of clog up our system and not cause China any issues. Because China has invested a lot into our country over the years, and they can't afford for us to start making moves to kind of take out their reach in our country.
So if what you're saying is they don't have enough control to make decisions, but they have enough control to make sure that we cannot progress further into maybe freeing ourselves of the Chinese grip that maybe they have.
Yeah, you said there's a lot of investment here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of they obviously send a lot of their students here. A lot of people come over here,
and they want that to remain smooth.
Exactly. And we talked about a couple months ago about how the Chinese police stations were being established here in the country.
In Toronto,
which they would use to surveil their people who choose to be free, but obviously can't fully be free from their government.
Right.
They had those here, and they then use that reach to influence specific goings on in our country.
Right.
And so they don't want to lose that grip. They don't want to lose that control because there's a lot of money over here at the moment. There's a lot of Chinese foreign investment here on a various amount of things. And so they want to keep that going. So anybody who has a anti-Beijing stance towards China, well, they got to go.
Right.
Can't be doing them. So there's only one real party that really had any favorable aspects towards Beijing, and that was the Liberal Party of Canada. And they want to make sure that Trudeau didn't have too much control, so they made sure that they really were trying to aim, not saying that they had like their thumb on the pulse the whole time, but they were kind of skewing results to make sure that there was a minority government here. They did their best to try and make it happen.
Which kind of keeps Canada stagnant.
Exactly. And because of how divided we've become. And no one's has any proof if there was any material change that was actually affected the elections. We'll find that out, but that's what we're getting into tonight. So the first one we're going to look into is RCMP investigating leaks alleging foreign interference. So as we said, they're not looking into a foreign country affecting our elections. They're looking into the people who are leaking our information to our people. And the issue that kind of came up in a lot of these searches or investigations at the moment is they are worried, CSIS is worried that there is workers among them that were just upset with the Trudeau government not doing anything about it, so they leaked it anyways. So they've got to figure out where the mole is, where the leaks are happening, what's going on. And so if we scroll down to the first paragraph, says, the RCMP says it has launched an investigation into violations of national security information law in connection to media leaks of Chinese foreign interference allegations. The RCMP has initiated an investigation into violations of the Security Information Act associated with recent media reports, said a spokesperson. For example, all CSIS employees are permanently bound to secrecy when it comes to their access to classified information. Last week, during committee testimony on the issue, CSIS Director David Vigneault told MPs that an investigation into leaks was underway by CSIS and its partners regarding the sources of the leaks, noting that there are internal mechanisms for spy agency employees to express their concerns over how information is handled. Well, clearly we're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah, I'd say. What the heck?
It's like I always get annoyed by this in general. It's kind of how government usually works, and it probably happens in a lot of corporations too. I know people who are employees get frustrated with their companies at times where they said, "We listen to our employees here. We care about you." But and we have the mechanisms in place to make sure that we hear your grievances, and then you get the grievance, and you're just like, "That's going in the toilet."
Yeah, you're the next to be fired.
Yeah, that's kind of how things usually work, and so. Vigneault saying, we have things internally to like address these grievances. We got to understand why people felt the need to leak this information.
Right. Because we've said this about many topics in the past where when one's not heard, they get louder, they go broader, they seek an audience that will listen. And so, in a way I can understand, obviously CSIS is like, dude, someone broke the rules. That you broke the rules. But as a citizen of Canada, I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least someone up there is looking out, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, they took one on the chin for the greater good, maybe.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
It's interesting the amount of defense that is coming towards the Trudeau government over this. It didn't really change anything, so we don't need to look into it. Is really what the message has been across the board from the Liberal government.
Right.
Is it didn't actually affect any, results. So we don't need to do any official investigations. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money.
Right.
And I'm like, great. Don't really care. I kind of want to know how we stop it from happening.
Yeah.
How it's happening, and what are we doing to take care of that?
Right.
Because say it didn't have any effect on the result. We'll play that game.
Yeah.
Well, what if the day comes where it does?
And we're just, we have no game plan.
No.
Because it's like you said, they have enough power to get this far. Maybe there's only this much more to go to affecting the polls.
Yeah.
who knows what that like gap is between where they are now and actually affecting numbers.
Exactly. And it's
Which
been,
they're saying that it hasn't, but many are saying it has. So even that's up in the air.
yeah. There was Trudeau was interviewed just a couple days ago about this. You know, people and journalists asking questions like, do you have any answer to this? And it went from kind of deflection of like, you know, it wasn't a big deal, to then someone has pressed him again with another question. And he then suggested that if you ask any more questions about Chinese interference, it's racist.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. He linked it to, you know, there's a lot of anti-Asian hate from the coronavirus stuff. And so we don't want to feed into that anymore. So please don't ask about this again. So,
Dude, if anyone is still wondering why there's a division in this country, it's like, I mean, that's it. That's right. Like crap doesn't run uphill.
yeah,
It's coming from the top, man.
exactly. And that's kind of how the game works, right? You, as a politician, if you don't want to deal with something head on, you try to deflect, you try to distract,
Yes.
or you try to come up with like something else to kind of get the focus shifted.
Right.
And so, or place blame somewhere else.
Right.
And so Trudeau he usually goes towards the blame game most often. Like blame the old white people
Right.
and their racist ways.
Yeah.
And when you use the race card, it still works on some people. It doesn't work on me anymore, but some people it's like, oh, I guess I don't want to be racist, so I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm not going to ask more
Right.
questions. That's kind of how the game works.
Yeah, it's a game. That's exactly that's like the perfect word to use, is that it's a game, because to not ask questions about the election, to not ask questions about the democracy, the very thing that supposedly makes Canada so wonderful is that we have a democracy. To not ask questions about how that's handled, I think is, I don't even know. I don't know what you would call it, sort of disservice to the Canadian people.
Exactly. And it just shows the corruption of our institutions.
Yeah.
You know, when people don't feel like they're being heard, they don't feel like they can trust their neighbor. There's just a lot of
A common tone throughout
Yeah.
the last few episodes of things we've been talking about too.
people start losing it, right? Like when you start distrusting just even your person who lives beside you based on immutable characteristics, whether it be, you know, their religion, their skin color,
Yeah.
or even just political beliefs.
Yeah.
Like that's the divide that is being drummed up. When you feel like you can't trust your neighbor anymore, we're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I was just talking to a friend over the weekend about. Something I learned was seeing a lot of people over the past 3 years who chose what the government was telling them versus what their family was saying or even believed in. Like that showed me a lot of people's character over the years. And so that's something I'm just keeping in mind as we go forward when stuff like this keeps coming up, where it's like, all right, whose side are you taking on? Are you going to take on, or you don't have to take sides, just are you going to at least be a human to the people you know, or are you just going to be the beaten stick for the government? So
what you're saying is will you own the fact that you maybe have a different opinion, but see that we can still be friends? Is that sort of what you mean?
Exactly.
Or still be family even?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can still just be friendly.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be like take the Trudeau stance. No, you're racist, you're a bigot, and we can't talk anymore because you believe in these things.
Right. And that's where I think there's a lot of confusion at times, where if you have a family member who is a racist, who is a bigot, there is no room to have a relationship with that person. That's different. But to be called a racist or a bigot based off views that our government is saying people who believe in this share is completely different. To disown a true racist, I think is appropriate. To disown someone who's labeled a racist because of opinions the government has said is racist is a really gray area. That like in a bad way.
Yeah. And it's interesting what happens when this stuff starts coming out, right? So a lot of people are asking questions. What's going on?
Rightfully
So
so.
Trudeau puts out that narrative
Yeah.
of racism. So it's going to be a certain amount of time before press starts picking up that narrative.
Right.
And that narrative starts shifting and you start, discrediting journalists, discrediting what they're writing. discrediting what people's opinions are. And then I guess the point's like, oh, we're definitely not going to investigate this at all moving forward. So, and then the next election happens, and then people start doubting their elections. They start doubting the results. They start doubting that they even have a say in their country anymore, and that those who are empowered just do whatever they want. What happens then? One or two things happen. People's given and just like, all right, this is just my new reality.
Yeah.
Or people are going to get in the streets and they're going to fight.
Yeah.
And what happened with the convoy is going to be...
That was nothing.
Yeah, compared to when people feel like their food's at stake. Their lives
And
are
their
at stake.
democracy is at stake. I mean, there have been wars over democracy. Again, in the history that we're supposed to teach so it doesn't repeat itself, there's been examples of this in history where when you start to threaten one's freedom when they have been told you will always be free by being a citizen of this country, that is a big deal.
Exactly. That kind of brings me to an interesting point. I came across an Angus Reid poll the other day, and it was talking about how Canadians feel about... Sorry, I didn't send you this link. That's on me. I'll send it to you later.
Shame.
But they kind of polled Canadians. This is back in 2019.
Oh.
And about how they feel about introducing term limits. And and the question they asked was, do you think term limits are necessary or unnecessary? 54% said term limits are necessary. 29% said they are unnecessary. And then 17 were just not sure. And that was in 2019 before all this stuff happened.
So I wonder what that looks like now.
I'd be curious if they ran that poll now, what that looks like. If it was 54% back then. Oh.
The fact that Canada doesn't have term limits makes me curious about how that didn't become introduced however many years ago. And this is maybe a stupid question, but I think it's a question that I want to know the answer to. When the United States of America was founded, was it always a president has a term limit from the very beginning?
Yeah, the American system was completely built off of them dividing from the British monarchy.
Right.
So they didn't want to do anything like them.
Yeah.
Whereas Canada took their system directly from the British monarchy.
Exactly.
And so everything that America stands for today and the way their legislature's shaped and their different branches of government it was all in such a way to divide power as much as possible.
Yes.
So that not one person could do anything. That's why you have all the fights nowadays.
You literally just said exactly where I was going.
Oh,
to leave
sorry.
one person in power.
My bad.
That's perfect. You said it. I conveyed the point is in America, though you may not love who's in power, there's so many levels to make something happen. Where in Canada, you could have the same leader technically forever on all levels of government.
Right. Controlling everything.
Because your vote for your local person is your vote for, so it's like, it's everywhere. It surrounds us here, the party that's in power most times.
Yeah, like we have like a form of this in terms of how much power, say, like our provinces have separate from the federal government. Like we have like a form of it. Yeah. Still not as much as I would say I would like to see, but there's still a form of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in America, you got the three legislative branches, and yeah, Biden doesn't have roughshod over everything, which is in some cases depends on your perspective is good, and some people believe is bad.
Right.
That's exactly probably why you want it, is because not one frame of mind or perspective is dominating policy
in a country.
Exactly. 100%. So that's kind of like where, like, when it comes to term limits in Canada, I would definitely be in favor of it.
Me too.
As I said before, whether it be Stephen Harper or Justin Trudeau, I think anything longer than 8 years is too long.
Absolutely.
And they just got to go. So.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
Totally. So it was interesting if we go to the Global News article there, Philip. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, this is funny.
So Trudeau stood there multiple times saying that he was not ever briefed, didn't know about China's involvement in our elections.
Yeah.
And this article from Global News says Trudeau briefed multiple times since 2022 on election interference, advisor says. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has provided multiple intelligence briefings regarding Beijing's role in Canada's 2019 and 21 federal elections. Trudeau's National Security and Intelligence Advisor confirmed Thursday at a multi-partisan committee on foreign interference. Jody Thomas was testifying before a group of MPs that began hearings last November in response to revelations in Global News reports that outlined Canadian intelligence probes into what sources alleged was China's vast campaign of interference targeting Canadian elections and politicians. Facing questions from parliamentarians, Thomas confirmed that since January of 2022, Trudeau and some of his cabinet have received a number of briefs and memos on Chinese election interference schemes in 2019 and 2021, as Global News first reported in November. Surprise, surprise.
The icing on that cake is, like you said, like he said that. He never got briefed and things like that. What I think I want to convey is the video is literally that. The video of him speaking is him literally saying, I have never been briefed on Chinese interference. Like it's almost word for word. Like he's looking in the camera and saying that after, given this time frame, that means he would have been briefed. He was bold-faced lying to the entire country.
I'd be interested if it happened, like if he had those like the same day type of stuff, where it's like, I never had sexual relations with that woman. Kind of, it would have been. That's what kind of reminds me of. But
it is. It's like
it'd be interesting.
I've never seen those before.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it'd be interesting if he got briefed that day and then he had like an interview.
Lie that afternoon.
Yeah, that'd be next level of like how like pathological this man is.
That's a good word. It reads like it reads like someone who just does not want to give up control.
No, exactly. And so we started doing a little more digging. We started looking at some journalists who are did the dirty work for us, and it was interesting. Mm-hmm. So if we pull up, let's see the first Twitter link there on the left. So Justin Trudeau had a cabinet meeting in 2016. It's interesting. So this is a photo from the real Andy Lee show, who does incredible work in journalism. She's awesome. Mm-hmm. And so she tweeted out a photo of Justin meeting with a bunch of delegates. And it says, this is Justin's cabinet meeting with Trudeau Foundation donor Niu Gengcheng, who CSIS says donated $1 million in funds for the Chinese government at Wilson House in 2016 after pay-for-play fundraisers were held. I can only find this in the Chinese media. Oh. And that's exactly where that link is from. It's from a Chinese source. Can't find it here.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So I think that's Bill Morneau up top as well.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. Gee. Interesting. That was just a year into his as leader of the country.
Thank goodness. It looks like they aren't that close. I'm sure Justin knew nothing of his massive donation prior to the secretive, intimate meeting at Meech Lake. And there they are, like, hugging.
Yeah. Can't say I don't know that, man. Yeah, and that was a follow-up tweet to the initial one we've been reading. So, interesting photos that were dug up. We love to see it. We're here for it. If we go to the second tweet there, this I thought was real interesting.
This is really intriguing.
So, the tweet says, I would say a lot of people making near-max donations to Justin Trudeau's Papineau Riding Association from outside of Quebec and particularly from British Columbia before and during the 2015 election is not ordinary at all. See a pattern. So right here we have a list of about 214 names that have all really close to max donations to the riding association that Trudeau is a part of.
I mean, most are maxed at 1,500.
Yeah.
Most of them are
241 donations, all around the max. And I hate to say it, it shows the location, shows the name of the contributor, shows the year that they donated. I'm looking through this. I'm not seeing many names that look non-Chinese.
Right.
And
I'm trying to as well, and
I'm looking for it.
We're
not trying to be very clear on this. We're not trying to be dull or dense on this one. We are taking a solid look, and we do not see it. Many of them come from Richmond, BC, Surrey, BC. A lot of it coming from the West Coast, which makes no sense. So, Papineau. Anyone ever heard of Papineau riding?
Yeah, Papineau's like near Gatineau, isn't it?
I don't even know.
Oh, it's somewhere in Quebec.
Dang, we rhymed that sucker hardcore. And so it's around there. You said it's around Gatineau?
I think. Let's Google it.
Yeah, let's Google it.
Oh, it's an electoral district in Montreal. Oh.
Yeah, it's a riding in Montreal.
Oh, got it. So it's not near Gatineau.
No,
got it.
I mean, 3 hours, I guess.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, so Papineau, I've never heard of this riding before Justin represented it. And all of a sudden in 2014 through 2016, you had max donations from the left side of the west coast of this country,
Yeah.
from a specific demographic of people, all giving towards this riding association.
In Quebec.
Yeah.
When they had their own ridings in BC.
Yeah. Like, why weren't they funding their own politicians?
Yeah.
Really odd. And so this could be nothing. Who knows? Maybe it is just all one coincidence.
Oh,
'Cause
exactly right.
We can't see what we don't know what the motive was. All we see is a trend, and all we see is what is happening overall. And it's a lot of donations at one particular time, and they all kind of drop off afterward.
What I'm curious of, are these all individuals? If you go back an image, they're all individuals. I'm curious of what sort of donations he received from corporations. Because this only shows like people.
Yeah. I'd be curious. It's interesting if you back out of this for a second there, Philip. Go back to the tweet. If you scroll down, this was I thought was really interesting when she pulled out the headlines from the 2015 election.
Oh, okay.
So if you click on the first image there, it said that Trudeau is in trouble in Papineau riding. He wasn't sure he was even going to win his riding. But then all of a sudden, the next slide, Justin Trudeau wins Papineau riding in a landslide. So again, we're not.
So are you able to just go back one image, Philip? That's October. So this is September 17th, 2015. Trudeau in trouble in Papineau riding.
Was a month out from the election.
And then October 19th, 2015. So that's effectively a month later.
Yep, right after the results election came out.
Wins in a landslide.
In his riding.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we're not going to make any assumptions. We're just saying
It's interesting.
It's interesting. It's a trend. You can make of it what you wish. So.
But it is all on the internet for us to see.
Exactly.
It is no longer hidden, at least. So you can look at it with your own eyes.
Exactly.
And make your own judgments.
And so when you're trying to get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on, from like why was this not coming out earlier? So
Right.
I was trying to understand kind of how our branches all kind of work. So you have CSIS, who their only goal in life is to kind of flag issues that are happening from a national security perspective, and
Yes.
their whole goal and what they do is they come across things, they let the government who's in power know.
Right.
So,
and then they would direct to the RCMP.
exactly, and they would direct the RCMP, and the RCMP is the one who are supposed to take act on it.
To enforce the law. If
Exactly.
there's something going on.
Yeah, do an investigation.
So
whatever.
CSIS is like our CIA or FBI without the ability to go and arrest.
Exactly, 100%.
Got it.
RCMP is the wing that's supposed to go do with the arrests.
Got it.
So, and so usually there's a representative from the government that deals with CSIS directly,
Right.
and that's the public safety minister. And
Got
this
it.
was Marco Mendicino,
Ah,
our guy.
yeah.
He was just in Dartmouth
He was
this last week.
Yeah.
Lucky he didn't run into
Talking
me.
about public safety, right? It was,
Yeah, I would have had some questions for him.
Was he taking questions?
No, of course not.
Oh,
But
of course. Okay.
if I ran to him in the streets, I would have had some questions for him.
Of course, yeah.
He probably would have ran from me.
Yeah.
But it would have been interesting. But yeah, so Mendicino would have received briefings from CSIS.
Yeah.
And he deemed that it wasn't necessary to let the RCMP know what was going on.
So there's red flag number one. We're letting the decision-making process go to one person.
It's kind of what it feels like.
Because what I'm taking from that is our national security guard, I'll call them, told the government this is going on. But when I say government, I mean the one liaison that's hired to communicate these issues from CSIS to Trudeau said not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it never got up, or it did, and they both collectively said,
Yeah, we don't need to do this with the
Yeah.
RCMP. And so in a perfect world, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did bring it to the team and they talked about it.
Right.
And they said, nah, that's even worse.
I know, because so my question is why do we have this middleman of the government? Can CSIS not just email the RCMP? Like, why do they have to go through? Like, can't they just brief the RCMP?
It's a great question.
Why does the government need to be the one to hear the message and then relay the message?
Yeah, that's why I want to do a little more digging in terms of how those all work together.
And it seems like a sneaky game of telephone too, where are you sure the entire message is getting through?
Right. Because this is what came out was, I will have to dig up this article, but this came up just a couple weeks ago, or a week ago when this all came out.
Yeah.
Was a representative of the RCMP was asked if, they were ever told about anything that was been going on with the election interference. And they said no, they didn't say anything. But CSIS claims they told the government, and RCMP is claiming that the government didn't tell them anything.
Right.
So something's going on. A breakdown in communication happened, whether it be purposely or on accident. Something went down.
Either way, I think it is wrong, though, that RCMP did not know.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that there's going to be no looking into it. And so when we come back to the full circle of what we talked about at the beginning of the show, that they are not going to investigate these claims, but instead are just going to look into who leaked it, that's when you know things are a little broken at our government levels.
It's also when you know you've caught on to something that you were not supposed to catch on to. That's like almost typical behavior of someone. It's almost like gaslighting in a way, where it's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have said it. Yeah, that might be bad, but you shouldn't have said it. You should not have outed us. You should have told us from within. You should not have outed us. And while that may be the rule, sure, investigate it, but the Canadian people cannot unlearn the knowledge that we now have. And I think that's the part that they're maybe now scrambling to, like you said, change the narrative or focus on penalizing and hunting down the people who leaked it. Like, create as many other stories as they can, other than this, the main thing that really has got the majority of Canadians upset.
Exactly. Foreign interference in our elections, which we always thought that was stuff that was reserved for America.
Right. That was not a north of the border problem.
No. But here we are dealing with it. How do we keep it from happening? And how do we hold this government accountable for it?
Yeah. Because at the present, it seems like you cannot hold the government accountable for it for fear of losing your job or, like you said, credibility as a author or as a journalist. And so how do you speak out without risking your life, or the part of your life that earns you money?
Yeah. It'll be moving forward. I'll be curious how things end up kind of rolling out here. Do people just forget about it? Ignore it happened? We just take the government's word for it that it's all good, don't worry about it? I mean, that could happen. The issue, though, is where I think it becomes a huge problem, is say it does all simmer down. Nothing happens right now. But when election time does come, things are going to get hot over this if it doesn't get dealt with now.
I see it being hot for a few reasons. Hot because I think people won't forget, and that will like re-jog their memory.
Yeah.
What's also going to suck is no matter who wins, if the Liberals win, everyone on the Conservatives is going to say, well, we need this election investigated. And if the Conservatives win, the Liberals, I 100% think, will flip the script and say, we need to start investigating elections.
Yep. Because they have the interesting thing with the Liberals is they have all the information from the past 8 years.
So they can produce it like that.
Exactly. And they know how to flip the script. They know where they can kind of like...
They wrote the script.
Exactly. As Justin Trudeau said, we made the roadmap for how to deal with things like this, as he talked about with the convoy protests. So... Yeah.
It's going to be spicy. And just the other day I watched it, and this is Kevin O'Leary, which is arguably becoming less and less credible as the days go on, it seems. But his opinion is that by the end of 2023, we'll see ourselves in an election. And I want to know what you think about that. When do you see Canada in an election?
I mean, all the pressure comes on Jagmeet.
Right. Well, because that's the coalition.
Yeah, he's the only reason why Trudeau's still in power right now.
Yeah.
I'll be curious how many more of these, because it just seems like every other month something major comes out about this government and how corrupt they are.
And I never hear Jagmeet anymore. Like I never hear a statement from him. He never has anything to say about these.
He's like I follow him on Twitter, so I see some of his statements that come out, and he says stuff, but you just know like no one takes him seriously because there's no action to him. And I know where it's going through his mind right now. Is he has the same motivations as Trudeau does. Trudeau wants to remain in power for as long as possible. Jagmeet knows that if he triggers an election either now or next year, that he's going to lose a number of NDP seats. Like it's going to be a huge conservative wave because of all the stuff that's happening.
Right.
And I'm like, I understand his strategy, political strategy is, all right, I'm just going to hold on for dear life and just hold on for what we can do. And then we'll see what happens in 2025. But I would caution against that strategy because I think the longer he allows this thing to
boil
and roll out the way it's going, he's going to lose more and more seats from an NDP perspective. So
it's all that strategy is also not serving Canadians.
No.
When I would say the majority of people right now want an election, to not have one for your own gain is so against what I think a politician should be about.
Yeah. I'm actually curious now, I'm typing this in now, I'm curious how many Canadians would want an election right now.
Oh, is there a poll for that?
I'm curious if there is.
Oh.
Angus Reid poll would be nice.
So you've mentioned, for people maybe who don't know, Angus Reid. Do you know a bit about them and like why you made a point to say their name? Like,
yeah, they're like a nonprofit foundation that does like polls, and they're pretty well known to be credible.
Right.
And so like they're kind of a main institution in our country that are bipartisan.
Right.
So that's usually why I will use their data.
Yeah.
They're usually known to be pretty reliable. So that's why I'm kind of bringing them up. But there is an Ipsos poll from 2022 that was just done, December of 2022.
Oh.
It says 1/2 of Canadians want a federal election in 2023.
Well, there you go.
So half the country does. That's a big number. But that's where I struggle, right? Like, I know we're in a bubble ourselves when we kind of read up on this stuff because that's kind of what we do now, and we're reading into these things. But like, dude, over the weekend, I had probably about 4 different interactions with people over 40. And this is all anecdotal, but it did tell me something. I didn't talk about it, didn't bring it up, but just people know me. They know what I'm about. And they asked me, it's like, what's this term woke that I keep hearing? Like, what is this? I don't understand it. And I was like, I thought they were punking me for a second. I was like, are you for real? You don't know what the term woke is? You heard about it, but you don't have no idea what it is. And they're just like, no, like I just hear people throw it around. And I was like, wow. Like this is kind of the half the country I'm talking about, where it's like people just are living their daily lives, trying to make, get their paychecks.
They don't care.
They meet their bills. Don't care. And I understand where that comes from.
Yep.
But it's concerning because it's people like that kind of keep people like Trudeau in power, because they're just like, on
to the next.
Whatever. They either don't vote or they just say, well, my family's always voted Liberal, so we'll continue voting Liberal.
Yep.
And they don't really know what's going on. And Trudeau won in 2015, not because he was so good. Obviously, he won off of his name, first off, but like just Harper had lost so much favor because of all of the crazy things that were coming about his government and, the entanglements they are involved in.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how governments that stay in long enough, they go through the same problems. All the corruption starts coming to the surface, and people are like, wow, those are some bad dudes. And what happened to the Harper government is now happening to the Trudeau government, except for, I will argue, not because I lean right, I would say the Trudeau stuff is far worse than anything Harper did. I'll be honest. Only because Trudeau could get away with it versus Harper had a little more of a scrutiny on him from the media.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, either way, I don't like either. Right. Like, I mean, Harper did do bad things. Justin Trudeau was doing bad things. I just, I think all this comes right back to term limits. We wouldn't have to worry about, because I think the thought that goes through my head is like, what if this is forever? Like, what if this interference becomes so severe that it's forever? Like, what if, and then what is Canada if the Liberal Trudeau government is forever? Well, then it's a dictatorship at that point. If our votes mean nothing, we don't live in a democracy. And so that's the part that becomes concerning. I obviously keep the faith that we won't get to that point, but that's the part that really is concerning, and a term limit would solve that. I would know, yeah, I've got 8 years of meh, and then it's on to something else, at least not with him.
Yeah.
It might be Liberal again, but it won't be him. And right now, there's no sort of reassurance, you know?
Yeah. And the question I'll ask is, who's going to give you that reassurance? I don't see, because politicians are so focused on themselves and their careers, who's going to introduce a deadline for their leadership?
I know.
Like, how are we going to force that?
The person who does, though, I think would have I think that would produce an unintended effect of admiration from people like you and I, though.
That's a good point.
Where maybe in the back of their mind, they're going, I literally just put a limit on how long I can be, Prime Minister of Canada. But for people like us, I would say, wow, what a way to check your ego and do what's right for the country, like I think a Prime Minister should. That move could make you go down as one of the greats.
I'd agree. I would 100% agree. It might even get an airport named after you.
Right, because apparently it's so easy.
Yeah.
Only for Trudeau. I wonder when he flies through Trudeau, does he think this is mine now? Like, do you think he's like, I'm the Trudeau that people care about now? Do you think he does? Like, do you think he's so arrogant he thinks he's better than his dad?
100%. He's definitely that arrogant.
Oh.
Dude, he's giving me so many vibes and reasons to believe he's that pompous.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, his father was pompous.
yeah, gets it honestly, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting, dude. Yeah. I never thought we'd be discussing election fraud in Canada.
yeah, me either.
I really didn't think this would be a topic for us.
Yeah, just because we talked about it before, right? Like, it's kind of hard to defraud our elections.
They're pretty much like,
Yeah.
and that's why, fraud's not the right word, because anyone who went to go vote absolutely had to be a Canadian.
Yeah. I think it's kind of what we talked about before though, is just because the way our system's laid out, it's very easy to manipulate.
That's the part
Yeah.
there.
Like, you don't need widespread election fraud happening in this country.
You just need
focus.
one area.
Yep, just focus on a group of ridings.
And you don't even really need to interfere. You just need to put either political or monetary pressure on these people, and they seem to crumble.
Mm-hmm. Very quickly. Which, I mean, what would be your number, Dalton? To do anything that you would go against your conscience? 10 million? 100 million?
I mean, I guess I have two answers to that. Like, depending where I am right now in life, I would not accept the money. I think I just I've seen what having skeletons in your closet can do to people, and they always seem to come out. So I just feel like, maybe I'll be rich right now, but what kind of hell am I going to go through when I'm 60 when these all come out? Now, if you want like an honest answer, like, yeah, $10 million sounds great. So that's the hard part. That's the moral dilemma. So I guess the answer, I don't know. It would depend on the situation I'm in. Mm-hmm. The part I don't get is these politicians, they don't need, like, they're usually well off.
Yeah.
So are these guys being blackmailed? Are they being given such substantial amounts of money that, like, incomprehensible amounts of money that they've got them like wrapped around their finger? Like, I don't know.
It could be even simple as a threat as, we'll guarantee that you're going to have a job. Like, you'll be an MP representing your riding. It could be even that simple. Like, you'll get the power.
Yeah.
It may not even be money attached to it. Who knows?
Right.
But Trudeau's case, there's a lot of money seemed to be attached to him. But
well, yeah, just in that Excel sheet we looked at, it was like 280 grand.
yeah, 300,000.
Yeah. And that was just between late 2014, early 2016.
Yeah.
Like,
What's been going on since 2016?
yeah.
I'd be curious to see. I would love to get Andy Lee on the show. I think she'd be amazing.
So I know it says the real Andy Lee show. Does she do her own podcast?
I think,
Or is Andy Lee show her name?
yeah, I think what happened is that was really her name. There was some things that happened with her Twitter account way back when.
Oh.
And so she ended up just like using she had a show, I think, at one point. And now it's just It's just a Twitter.
That's just her
account now.
Twitter name. Oh, okay, I get it.
But man, she breaks some very interesting things. I'll be honest. Like I really think she's really cool.
That's brave too.
Absolutely is. So Andy Lee was banned from Twitter. This is the real Andy Lee show starring Mark Patrone and Andy Lee.
Oh, so I think she probably does have a show from Calgary. Oh yeah, joined. This is her new account. It just joined in March 2022.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on. Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, yeah, that top tweet. So I'll read the tweet.
Yeah, read it.
It says, on March 24th, 2020, Justin Trudeau stated the federal government had no immediate plans to use cell phone data to track citizens' movements during the pandemic. Yet 2 days later, a contract previously withheld from public disclosure to do just that was awarded to Blue Dot. And she posts the Blue Dot contract or invoice. That says the contract date, the original value of the contract, the description of it, which was information technology and telecommunications consultants. This contract was omitted from a previous public disclosure. This contract was sole sourced. Additional comments say a 1-year subscription to the Blue Dot database to provide solutions to track, contextualize, and anticipate global infectious disease risks. The information is delivered via a dashboard solution on the Dawn for Ottawa, Ontario. National Defense. Woo.
Yikes.
They're not tracking us.
So I wonder where he learned a tactic like that. You know,
Of like,
to track citizens.
oh, I mean, we probably his uncle.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uncle Schwab.
yeah, and his admiration of that's the part, dude. That's the part I can never get that quote in my head of him saying he admires the communist, party of China.
Yeah.
And then you look at what's happening now. You look at his connections to China. You look at the Chinese involvement in this country through foreign investment and foreign ownership. And then we start talking about election meddling, and you go, the writing was on the wall. Yeah. He wasn't. He told us.
Yeah, he told us straight to our faces.
He told us straight to our faces. This is what he wanted. So why shouldn't we believe him?
Yep. Gee.
It's happening. He did it. Good on him. He did it.
Yeah. Pulled the wool over many people's eyes.
Yeah.
And I think I'll just be honest with him in particular. He was never my choice. I was definitely on board with that conservative messaging as he's just not ready. Back in, those are funny.
Those were.
But like I didn't think he'd do a particularly good job, but like, I was like, whatever, I'm not going to cry over it. It's just like,
he's not going to ruin the country.
yeah, like here we are. You know, I didn't give him enough credit that he could be this destructive.
Yeah. I think we underestimated him in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's because we've never seen it in our lives. I mean, it's easy to believe now on this side of 2020, but prior to 2020, there's.
Well, and really for me, I mean, I was in high school during the Harper Trudeau election, so I couldn't even vote.
Right.
But and then it was Trump, Hillary when I was also in high school. And that was when we were in grade 12. So it's like when we were on the brink of caring at that point. Like people had opinions then. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced, like, you know, someone said in class one day that they supported Trump, and it was like, dude,
they had the MAGA hat.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like maybe they were just doing it for a meme, but either way they said it, and you could, you know, I learned quickly the sort of the surroundings I was in, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like we're adults, we're voting, and those same people are now also voting. And I wonder how many of them, like, do they care, or do they just, like you said, they just go about their day and vote? Like, I wonder how many people I went to school with who are like they, because we're pretty young. Like, this is, I would say, abnormal to care this much at my age. But I just think that there's an importance in caring. And I just wonder I wonder what demographic of that 50% that we read won an election are my age.
Right. Yeah, I'd be curious, man.
Like, are other people my age dying for an election? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to dig into some of these polls and stuff, see if there's anything else coming out that's been done.
Yeah.
See where things are at. Because, yeah, the temperature in this country is not exactly going down. And I think people really are just, especially after this election interference and the fact they're going to not
in any way investigate the issue, but investigate the people who released the issue.
Thought that doesn't tell you that they're coming after us. They don't really care about serving us. That's it right there.
Yeah.
But yet they came to Dartmouth, let us know how awesome we are, and
Something about Cole Harbour.
yes, it was they were doing something with they were investing in some type of community outreach stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He was here for like a couple hours.
Yeah.
And he knew everything about Dartmouth.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I love Dartmouth Grapery, the Portland Street Grapery. You know, friggin' at North Side Community Center, Northwood Side Community Center.
Right.
He did his announcements.
Ah.
I was like, Mendicino, my
Right in
guy.
your backyard.
Yeah. Right when all this stuff was going on, I'm like, that would have been an interesting conversation.
Oh, you would have been like, no more comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. See you.
Yeah.
Doses. But yeah, before we drop off, anything you want to mention there, Philip? Anything coming to mind? Anything you want to chat about?
I'm just happy to be here. Happy to still have a job. I don't know. Sketchy that I wasn't here last week.
True.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Yeah.
That snowstorm screwed it all up.
Yeah, that really did.
That was a big snowstorm.
Yeah. It's the first time we've ever divided a show up across 2 nights of recording.
I know.
That was interesting.
I feel like it's also so weird that it's like finally winter now, but it's March.
Dude, that's the part that I really hate. I'm like, is it going to snow until like June?
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're in for? Like,
I'm in for it, baby.
oh,
I only got my winter tires on in February, so
yeah. After the incident.
after the incident. Which one? Anyways. Yeah, so that's our country, y'all. We love you. Oh, Canada.
Dude, speaking of O Canada, that was the first time I'd been in an arena for O Canada as of within like the last like little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the person singing it at the Scotiabank Center,
Yeah.
I think sang it right, didn't they?
No, she said in all of us.
All of us.
It's funny how people keep listening for that these days.
Yeah, so, right, she did say all of us, right. For some reason, I'm not as upset about that as I think many other people are.
So for me, I don't really care either. I only care because Trudeau made a point of making it a thing.
Like, he rewrote our anthem, and that was like a thing he stood on.
Yeah. And I'm
Right.
like, and that's the only reason I don't care to like acknowledge it. And I'm like, no, it's going to stay the way I grew up how it was because I just don't like you.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I don't like that you were trying to rewrite everything in our country.
Right.
And you're ruining our country.
Yeah.
So anything you've chosen to do, I'm not going to acknowledge.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel.
That's fair.
But the thing itself, I'm like, I get it. Like, I think it originally was written as a plural, like all-encompassing statement
Yes.
in the first place. But
Did you also see someone sing the anthem and said, our home on native land?
I did see that.
What were your thoughts on that?
Oh man, you're coming at me tonight. Dude, it was Julie Black, I believe, who sang it, and I'm not a huge fan of. I get the messaging behind it, but I'm just not a fan of people like virtue signaling.
Yeah, dude. Listen, that's
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm like the message itself. I don't really have much of an issue with.
Oh, I mean, the issue's hard to argue.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing of like just trying to say it, sis. Yeah,
Right.
you know, it's just like it's all for the clicks, and I get
Right.
it. I'm exhausted by it.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
I think 100% that's like, especially after the last 3 years, like everything has been a spectacle. Like, well, it has to be a statement piece.
Yeah,
So it's like, it does sort of, in a way, yeah, I think it sheds light on the message, but it also kind of devalues it too. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting, kind of like, you know, the Thunderbirds games, for example, where they shed a lot of light on like Indigenous values, and
Absolutely.
I think it's pretty cool.
Of course.
I mean,
I think so too.
Makes sense because the owner is Indigenous.
Yeah.
Which I do appreciate because there's a lot I learn when I go to these games and stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, it's an Indigenous game, correct? Like that
Oh,
was
100%.
that was, and that like that's our national sport for a reason. That came with the country.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's only. I noticed we were running a little bit late into the arena, and they were. It was right at the time where they were doing their showcase for Indigenous people, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool!" Like I think this is so appropriate, especially considering the game.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting because I think the way I'm going to misword this, but kind of essentially the song that they do at the beginning is essentially it's a tribal song.
Yes.
That they do as part of like the national anthem at the beginning of the games now.
Yes.
It's just their thing, which is cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And so I think, as I've said this before, I don't know, like this is more of like a perspective difference. I've talked to some Indigenous people who are like cool, some that don't care for it, but the whole like, you are now on unceded, like we're acknowledging we're on unceded territory, the Mi'kmaq people, and then we're gonna sing that in Canada. You know,
Right.
It's just like it just looks weird if I'm being honest. Like if that's what you want to signal towards, and then as well sing the national anthem. I'm like, it just kind of looks weird.
Yeah.
You know? Or I'm like, just do what it is. Like, you know, I don't know. This whole continued virtue signaling. I understand that to some people they care for it, where it's like there's some Indigenous people that are like, yeah, I'm really for this.
Yeah.
Others who I'm like, I think it's a slap on the face. Don't bother doing it.
Yeah.
You can't please everybody.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's shout out for them for trying, because I mean, I think the Scotiabank Center is like at this point where they're just like trying to try anything to appease the masses. Like when they did the world tattoo thing.
Oh,
like the Scotiabank Center didn't make those rules, but that's where it takes place. And so these organizations, I think, are like they lean a certain way, of course, right? And then they make their decisions based on that. But
well, it's like I think in some cases a lot of these organizations don't even care.
they feel like they have to.
They feel like they have to, but they feel like it's the majority when it's really a minority that actually care.
Right.
And so they think that they're, in some cases, a marketing tool for a lot of these organizations.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't think you're realizing that you're, in some cases, that you're actually turning off more people than you're attracting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what happens when, you know, like the physical reality of, I've never experienced this, but from people who have, they tell me when a bomb goes off near them, it's like a flashbang or whatever. You're just kind of like, your senses are all over the place. You don't know what's up, what's down, you don't know what's around you. I think it's similar when people drop social bomb issues on people. They don't know if they're up from they're down, side to side, and there's like they just give in to whatever's being told to them. Like oh my gosh, I am racist because I'm asking about Chinese election meddling,
Right.
you know, and they just kind of give in. I think there's a lot of people like that,
Yeah.
and who don't actually know. You don't have to give in to these people anymore. You don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
It's a different story of like if you actually believe in it. That's a different conversation.
Like we said at the beginning. Yeah, if you're a racist, then that's different.
Yeah. But like, it's a whole other story of like, you know, if you're just like you're saying things just for the sake of being left alone, I don't really have much respect for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Great. That's incredibly true. What an interesting time, dog. What an interesting time to be alive.
yeah,
So many issues I never thought I'd have to deal with.
as a white man in Canada.
I know. It's like, am I allowed to have issues? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
yeah. Do you? Are you allowed to have issues?
But yeah, I just think, you know, when you're a kid, you're so naive. So naive.
Totally.
You miss it in a way. But I guess I'm blessed to be alive to have the issues.
True. I can't wait for these social credit systems to come. That'll be fun.
Dude, there was something about Australia.
Yeah.
They just released this weekend, I think.
So I saw something about that.
Something about, I don't think it was an official release, obviously.
Yeah,
I don't think
they're
it was
not going to announce that one.
We're judging you.
Yeah.
But it was like a back end dashboard that showed them like tracking people.
Yeah, they
That's what
officially
what it looked like.
implemented some AI cameras to start tracking exactly movements, emotions, very similar to what they essentially released in China back in 2015, 2016. And so, yeah.
Yeah, the second article there. AI-based $100 million.
Debut. So
Yikes.
this happened.
So this is the camera that they use.
Yeah. And the technology that's behind these cameras. So Australian AI camera tech developer Accusensus set for ASX debut. Accusensus, a Melbourne-based artificial intelligence camera technology company, is preparing for a $100 million debut on an Australian securities exchange on January 12th. Yada, yada. The NSW government also utilizes Accusensus's point-to-point speed detection system to detect average vehicular traffic speeds. This quick uptake from local legislation has led to a revenue increase of $28.7 million in the fiscal year of 2022 compared to $2.3 million in 2020. Whoa! That's a big difference. Forecasting a continued upwards trajectory of 36.9 million this year.
So they're making a ton of money.
Yeah. I actually want this last paragraph. This is interesting. Aiming to expand their road safety solutions across the globe with an eye on U.S. and European markets as the first of its kind technology, AccuSensus will further develop their AI to monitor driver fatigue and impairment from drugs and alcohol consumption.
There's just something I don't like about continually being on camera.
Yeah. Now you're not just getting the cameras now. They're giving you the data through the cameras.
Yeah.
So someone doesn't even have to be there monitoring it anymore.
Yeah. That's so intriguing, dude. So I didn't realize that Australia was on such a mission for a social credit system. I guess I didn't realize
Yeah, Australia and Canada are definitely neck and neck at the moment.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, there was a prime minister of, was it New Zealand? That was I can't remember her name, and she just stepped down.
Yeah, I believe that was New Zealand. Yeah.
New Zealand. She was like ultra woke, right? That was her shtick.
Yeah, she was like the female Trudeau.
She that country went through a convoy, quote unquote, themselves because of her.
Of sorts, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, well, I mean, they were at one point part of the monarchy, again, all resembling the British Empire.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes back to like which governments are now WEF controlled, right? Canada's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
New Zealand's another.
Yeah.
Australia, I believe, is another one as well. And it makes sense because they're all doing the same things at the moment.
Yeah.
The only one that they're having a hard time getting on board is the United States.
Yeah.
America, because of those guns. So we'll see how that transpires. But it's, dude, if you look at the WEF website, when they're kind of planning their 2030 plans, like the whole goal is they talked about how it won't be one superpower. It'll be a unipolar superpower. So it'll be multiple countries leading the way. Mm-hmm. That's what we're kind of seeing with NATO is multiple countries leading the way. But it just seems like it's one voice who's dictating what's happening across all the countries.
Yeah. It's like you're going to lead the way I tell you to lead the way.
Yeah. So it'll be one organization running it all, essentially. Right. But the one thing they're trying to dismantle the U.S. and how they do things. And they're being a little bit harder to wrestle down than I'm sure they hoped.
That's a hard nut to crack, the United States.
Yeah. It's like you say what you want about like the hardcore Republicans and conservatives, man, but they're going to be the reason that the U.S. stays standing if they do manage to remain standing after all this. Mm-hmm. Like, gee, they are some stubborn people.
Which maybe that's needed. Maybe it's a good thing right now.
Yeah, it's definitely needed at this point.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Right now it's good.
Dude, crazy.
You're not going to take my guns?
Maybe they'll save the country.
Yeah.
Maybe that attitude will save them right now.
Yeah. Or this is the thing with America is I think they're going to be divided regardless. I think there'll be half America that goes to the WEF.
Yeah.
And the other half that remains independent.
Yikes.
But at the end of the day, the U.S. still will not be the superpower regardless of the scenario or the result. So I think that
will be that'll
be the plan. Move to Florida, y'all.
Yeah, I'm like, move out to North America.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, what's going on. It's funny. I was talking to some more of my conservative leading friends, and they're just like, man, we gotta go to Eastern Europe. I was like, are you nuts? Eastern Europe? Yeah, because they have they're still got the traditional values. And I was like, I get you, but they have some of the most corrupt governments in the world over there.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? They're just like, well, I'm like, get out of here, man. You're not going to win me over with that argument that you need to go to Eastern Europe to get away from all of this. I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying, I guess it's like you're only picking one evil over the other essentially in that scenario, but I don't know. We'll see.
But you watch how corruption turned against Andrew Tate.
Real quick.
Like
he's still in prison.
On no charges.
So
corruption has a pecking order. What is it called? Pecking order? Is that the word? Yeah. So
hierarchy.
Yeah, hierarchy. Yeah. So I would rather exist where there's no corruption rather than just be in a country with corruption and be higher on the pole. Because unless you're number one, it can still affect you.
Right. Good point.
I would just rather live where there's no corruption, which I don't know if that exists. But have you seen what's going on, I think, in El Salvador?
No.
I think it's El Salvador. Gang Crackdown. Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
The president, had enough. Dude, he is arresting everybody that looks like they're part of it. They have the highest homicide rate in the world, I believe. And so he built a prison that can hold 40,000 people.
Yikes.
He built a prison that will hold 40,000 people, and he's arresting, if he even thinks you're in a gang, prison for almost like
jail.
Yeah, no, for real. The videos are crazy. He just lines them up. They just get on their knees, they arrest them, and they send them to prison. Like, he just built this facility, 40,000 people it can hold.
Gee, War on Gangs by populist leader Nayib Bukele has produced extraordinary change, but the cure could be as harmful as the disease.
So it's been targeted by a lot of human rights activists as like, what would you say, like a crime against them, I guess, like the way they're being treated. But the resident, like the citizens of El Salvador have apparently been loving it. There's less homicide, there's less gang-related activity, there's drugs off of the street, their children are safer, they feel safer. And this president's just about, he's like, I don't care. I don't care if the human rights. He was like, human rights activists can be upset. I'm arresting everybody.
Wow.
And so it's like, is there a moral dilemma of how these gang members are being treated, or do you say they're gangsters and I'm going to protect the good citizens?
Right. It comes down to, like, I guess the moral dilemma, because this was the issue that some people brought up when Duterte was doing something similar in the Philippines, where it's like, I get it, but it's just like the other side of it is where you start getting in trouble, right? Where it's like, all right, what takes a corrupt cop, which they very much exist down there, where that they plant drugs on you, if they don't like you.
Yeah.
Gee. Difference with Duterte was he was executing all drug lords.
Yeah.
So that was a lot scarier. But gee, yeah, this is crazy.
Like, I think these people will still be offered a trial. Like, they're not arrested without trial.
Right.
But they are taken off the street and not allowed out until trial.
Makes sense. Could you imagine just being like, all right, game on, gangsters?
I think you have anything to do with drugs, you're done.
Dude.
We'll get you or die trying.
Shout out SNL.
Yeah.
Jail.
But
Like
I thought this was great.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You'd never see that in the West right now.
Build a prison for 40,000 people and just start arresting people.
Yeah.
No way.
Never gonna happen.
No way.
I mean, we did have the environmental prison that Trudeau built.
Oh, yeah, wait, that is true. And wouldn't you call like those COVID facilities something similar?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah,
it's just on a different level.
Yeah, you're right.
But it was a government facility that he built too. And then you look at China, like they literally built facilities for COVID.
Yeah. And they're still building out
concentration camps.
Internment camps, yeah.
For it's called Uyghur.
The Uyghur Muslims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this stuff happens around the world.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. And wow, thanks for bringing that one up. That's a fun story.
Yeah, I saw this on TikTok the other night and I started looking into it and I thought, this guy is about it, man. He's just said, I'm going to protect the people.
Yeah. Gee.
Kind of admirable.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see what in a couple months' time when the stories start coming out about it.
Definitely. And like,
see how this all goes.
But the thing that went through my mind is I wonder how many of these gangsters are going to like cry to the media about how they're like sweet, innocent little men that wrongfully were arrested. Like, I wonder how the stories will start coming out.
That's a good point. Gee.
But I thought it was interesting.
Great call up, man.
Yeah.
Love it. That's where we'll end it then.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good spot to end it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was a great show, y'all. So don't forget that we'll be back to you on Monday.
Regular scheduled programming now, man.
Exactly. But we're here for it. But whatever it is you're doing, whether you be going to work.
Oh. Or avoiding the AI cameras.
Oh.
Or donating to Trudeau.
Oh.
Yeah. Whatever it is you're doing.
Wherever you are.
We love you.
We're out.
Peace.